Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Maggie Jacqua. I'm the content director of Whole Foods Magazine, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar. Thank you all for joining us. Today, we're going to be learning about 5 ways to maximize your marketing budget and ROI in 2021. Today's presentation features Kelly Stewart. A little bit about Kelly. She is the Vice President of Marketing at Sampler, and she is one of the company's earliest employees. With almost a decade of experience in brand strategy and communications for consumer packaged goods, Kelly joined Sampler to help build the team's marketing foundation. Now, since joining Sampler, Kelly has helped develop and implement Sampler's B2B2C brand voice through the creation and amplification of digital content. Kelly has played an integral role in helping Sampler win industry awards and secure press coverage with top publishers such as TechCrunch and Ad Age. Over the next hour, Kelly is going to explain how you can transform your product sampling tactics into a comprehensive 360 view of your consumer. And she's going to fill you in on how that can maximize your ROI this year. So we're looking forward to that. Before I turn the stage over to Kelly, a few quick housekeeping details. You will be able to ask Kelly any questions that you have at the end of the presentation. So go ahead and submit your questions into the questions panel as they occur to you, and we'll get to those after Kelly wraps up her talk. If you have any technical issues, submit those to us in the chat box, and the behind the scenes team here will assist you with that. Also, so you know, this webinar will be available on demand, so you can review the information again, and you can share it with your colleagues, so we invite you to do that. And now I would like to invite Kelly to the stage to join me.
Hi, thank you so much for that intro.
Hey, it's great to have you here, Kelly. I am looking forward to this talk, and I'm going to back away and turn things over to you now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, or joining me, really, to talk about the 5 ways to really maximize your marketing budget and return in 2021. As mentioned, my name is Kelly Stewart, and I am the VP of Marketing at Sampler. If you've never heard of us before, no biggie. We're a digital product sampling company, and we help CPG brands all over the world digitize their sampling efforts and actually deliver physical product samples to digitally targeted consumers. So once again, I'm super excited to be here with you today, and we're going to be talking through a whole bunch of ways to maximize your marketing budget and return this year. So as we know, the industry is really transforming in ways, as is the rest of the world right now, that even the most seasoned marketers couldn't have predicted. It's been a pretty crazy year with a whole bunch of curveballs for marketers. And so what we're really going to do is we're going to take a look at some of those factors really contributing to the change, and most importantly, discussing ways that we as marketers can really adapt in this changing CPG landscape, and especially maximize impact, which is super top of mind right now. So before we get started, I figured it would be really good to maybe just learn a little bit more about everybody here in the audience who's joining us today. So I'm just going to launch a couple of poll questions to get us started. And so you'll see that pop up on your screen here. The first question is, have you ever leveraged product sampling to run marketing campaigns before? I'll just give you a few seconds to log your answers there. Well, it looks like a lot of you have before. Great. Perfect. It looks like about 61% of you have before. Super helpful. And so second question will be popping up on your screen in a moment, which is, which of the following really describes, just a second, there we go. Which of the following describes your line of work or your field? Great, see a lot coming in now. Perfect. Lots of brand marketers here today. Great. Okay, so we've got a pretty good mix today, which is awesome. And so I definitely wanted to make sure I understood who is here today before I dove into today's tips, but this will be applicable across the board for everyone in every field. So thank you so much. And then as mentioned, If you do have any questions, feel free to ask them throughout, and then we'll get to them at the end. And we're also going to be using the Sampler Talks hashtag on social. If you want to get into the conversation online, feel free to go there. We'll be doing some posts there as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the world as we know it has really undergone such a substantial change since the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, the pandemic has caused such extreme and rapid changes, of course, globally across the board, but especially in consumer behavior, that traditional models built on last year's purchase behavior are just no longer accurate. The CPG industry in particular has faced so many unique challenges during this time, which I'm sure everyone here can attest to. And truly so much, unexpected volatility in demand, really difficult stuff with the physical environment and in-store, massive supply chain disruptions, all of this going on while under pressure to get products onto shelves and keep employees, retailers, and consumers happy, which is a whole lot at once. The pressures CPG brands are currently facing are primarily driven by 6 macroeconomic factors. And so I figured it would be a great place to start to kind of look into those in a little more detail today. So the first one, of course, is supply chain pressures, which I'm sure all of us are feeling right now. Definitely the big headline here. We know that many manufacturers are currently in defense mode. They're not spending discretionary dollars, mainly due to the fact that many of their costs in their day-to-day business have increased by as much as 50%, which is, of course, massive. So things like transportation, container shipping, for example, have increased between 25 to 50%. Packaging and commodity costs like lumber and wood pulp, I'm sure we've all heard of, have skyrocketed, affecting the cost of paper and aluminum, continuing to affect the cost of cans or resin, affecting the cost of plastic. Brands have seen other fixed costs go up, with one of the highest being labor wages. So things like COVID pay, overtime, all these are coming into play here. And this is just under one of these factors. So material and labor shortages have really impacted these increasing costs. Second on the list is really retailer pressures. So at the same time, retailers are nervous. They're putting a lot of pressure on brands and manufacturers. And that's because they've been faced with significant challenges over the past year and a half actually now. And the small margins these businesses have, every penny that their customer spends is super valuable. In addition to this, the massive increase in online shopping. There's more transparency in pricing. The consumers have more power than ever to price compare when they shop, and more time to research a brand. And so the number of trips to stores has also decreased, while our average basket size has gone up by almost 20%. Each and every trip is increasingly important, and really impactful for retailers right now. So adding on top of that, consumers are switched to new brands during the pandemic due to limited availability. And, at that time, so, these retailers realized that they could get by with fewer SKUs potentially on their shelves, and inevitably they are placing their priority on their own private store brands. So, health and safety obviously has been huge investment for these retailers, everything from sanitizing carts, wiping down conveyor belts, installing plexiglass shields. All of these are incremental costs that really add up and really continue to shrink that margin for retailers, on top of any other safety measure you can imagine in your recent trips to the grocery store. Next up, marketplace uncertainty. So, there are without a doubt, I hate this word, unprecedented. I know we are all sick of it. If only we could eliminate it from the dictionary at this point, but it's true. It's truly, no one has gone through this in the way that we are right now before in our lifetime. And there's no way to accurately forecast the future. Many brands right now are afraid to change price, to change promotional strategies, which we know can be very costly. Really hard to predict what the impact can be. So we know that many new products that were in the works were capitalizing prior to the pandemic, snacking on the go, rapid meals. These may pivot. These may not land the way they would have prior to the pandemic, or they might. We really don't know yet. And so brands are holding, off on the risk of cost and innovation, just trying to figure it out. On top of that, changing consumer trends. trying to keep up with the ever-changing consumer needs over the past year and the trends. Some categories have been impacted more than others. Even with the reopening happening currently right now, slowly in the US, a little bit more delayed in Canada, but still getting there. It's not quite back to normal. It's going to take a little while to get there. And so, all these impulse categories, everything's had to pivot. Everyone's had to pivot their strategy on a dime very, very quickly, and pivoted many times over the past year and a half. It keeps changing. So staying in touch with those consumers is so important right now to understand how they're feeling. On top of that, growth expectations, some certain categories saw huge surges in 2020, and this year is a little more unpredictable. It's hard to, map and figure out what the incremental growth will be for you in sales this year comparatively to last year, which was a bit of an ad hoc year. That's really, really hard to nail down a plan and an output, really. And so finally, back to the old normal, or quote unquote old normal. What is that? With vaccine rollouts and reopenings, all around the world, we're starting to see some resemblance to our old normal, but we don't know what that will be yet, and we don't know the comfort level of consumers yet. It's developing as we go along, and there's so many predictions in the industry right now that certain traditional tactics like in-store sampling are going to be less effective than they were before the pandemic. There are some really great studies about, Costco reopening their in-store sampling. While the diehard Costco fans might feel comfortable with it, a lot of people really don't. And what does that look like? Probably more costly for the individual servings to make people feel safe right now. So, there's a lot of health and safety concerns around that, not to mention the increase in online shopping. So the number of people in store has decreased. And so, these are a lot of factors happening at once. Having survived the initial impact of COVID and facing the above challenges, brands are now beginning to pivot to recovery and future-proofing their businesses for really long-term competitiveness. So how do you remain impactful and efficient as you transition and evolve into a new post-COVID era? So I personally have been with Sampler now for about 6 years, and we've worked with over 400 CPG brands all over the world on their marketing efforts, particularly digitizing their sampling programs. And so I'm going to walk you through how a digital product sampling program can help combine multiple pieces of your marketing mix into one centralized platform and make every single one of your marketing dollars go longer or further rather, and you're really getting more bang for your buck. And so if you've never ran a digital sampling program before, I can just quickly go through what that looks like for you. And so from there, digital product sampling program allows you to send physical product samples to digitally targeted consumers, as I mentioned earlier. So how that works is you can actually, after creating an account as a consumer, you fill in a diagnostic questionnaire with information including demographics, dietary preferences, lifestyle habits, and any information that's necessary for targeting. Once that happens, they're actually matched with any samples that match the answers they have given and best match their unique lifestyle, which then they can handpick and get them handpick which ones they want, actually. And then the ones they select will be delivered right to their home. And so during a sampling program, they're able to opt in to a brand's mailing list for future communication, answer post-sampling surveys to provide ratings and reviews, and their unique feedback on the product. And so, one thing that's really important here is that opt-in. They still have that power as they would in in-store sampling to walk up and make that decision about which sample they'd like to try, except in this version, it's way more targeted. You're getting a similar experience or targetability that you would with programmatic advertising. You're getting that piece of your marketing mix, but you're also getting a physical product sampling into their hands, which also is, eliminating waste. You're only putting it in the hands of people who are much more likely to convert, which right now, with budgets tight, is more important than ever. And so if we look at what a digital sampling program can really do, it does go far beyond that free product trial that in-store sampling is so focused on right now, right? It's a way to build the infrastructure that enables lasting, data-driven, and most importantly, profitable relationships with consumers. So, the unified approach to sampling lets you optimize your marketing spend and boost operation efficiency by, reaching your highest value consumers with advanced audience targeting and capturing and actioning first-party consumer data. Growing your email database for personalized remarketing, which is huge right now. When the world does open, you want to have the contact information of people that really have interacted with your brand and care about your brand to nurture that relationship to brand advocacy. Collecting ratings and reviews to drive sales. That's so important right now, as we discuss. There's been brand switching happening just strictly due to lack of supply. You need to step forward within your category and have that consumer-backed review or rating to show just how great your brand is. On top of boosting digital ad effectiveness with sampling CTAs, I'm sure everyone has experienced crazy increases in CPL costs, CPC costs, and just so expensive to run digital ad campaigns right now. Not to mention that it's extremely saturated. Everyone's trying to do the same thing, making your ad that you're paying good dollars for get lost in the shuffle. And so, all CTAs are the same. It's always learn more. But what if you could put a sample behind that? That's really something that jumps out to a consumer who's scrolling through their feed. The fact that they could have that experience of interacting with you digitally and weaving that physical sample into it as well, that gets delivered to their home for no effort really, is huge to a consumer. And so let's go through that in more detail. Not all consumers will provide the same value to your business. And with the added budget pressures that we're being faced with today, it's obviously, more important than ever to direct your efforts and, of course, your dollars to those high value consumers. These are the ones that are going to provide the biggest return for your brand. How do you target them? How do you reach them? And how do you keep this ideal consumer? All three important pieces. Conversion is just one piece. You want to keep them for as long as possible. So once again, that brand advocacy. So the beauty about digital product sampling is that it really allows you to choose from over 700 segments, include everything from region, how often they exercise, what type of hobbies they have. So the targeting possibilities are really quite significant. You can target against very specific segments like demographics, care and beauty, food and beverage, personal interests, health and fitness, and even shopping habits. So from there, with every sampling program you run, the platform gets smarter, helping you identify consumer demographic insights that you may not have considered before. So for example, if you initially started your program targeting consumers with different skin concerns, you may be able to pinpoint consumers who are experiencing fine lines as being more likely to repurchase your product. That is invaluable information for remarketing. And at Sampler, we're able to identify these key subsegments for you and actually come up with recommendations as to how you can continue to target those consumers to ultimately bring them closer to their next purchase. And so, building and reaching your highest value audience, once again, this is so important to reach the right consumer to drive those conversions. The real key to success is leveraging data and technology to capture and retain your highest value consumer with relevant messaging, leading to optimized marketing spend and long-term payoff. And I think that's the really big thing right now is as the world opens, we're drawn towards more experiential marketing, but you aren't going to get the same data or measurability with experiential marketing that you are with digital marketing. Think about the practices that have been set up over the last year and a half where you were forced to lean into digital advertising. You know exactly what you got out of every cent spent there. You can track the whole process from start to finish. That is extremely difficult in an in-store sampling experience, for example, or really most experiential marketing activations. And once again, when you really want to know how far every single dollar in your budget is going right now, having that measurability is so important so that you know exactly where your dollar is going and how impactful it is to your overall strategy. So number two, the other major benefit to discuss today is really the ability for you to take on a more direct-to-consumer approach and build a relationship with your consumers. Something obviously traditionally been in the hands of retailers. So, talking about capturing and actioning first-party consumer data, that is something that's going to be lost when you move back to experiential marketing. You aren't going to have that one-to-one relationship directly with the consumer. It's a lot hard to foster a relationship and even get the contact information of anyone who's tried your product. Getting that CRM data is vital in helping to grow your not only your email database, but also just your brand advocates, your customer base, and building that loyalty with them. And so if we start looking at, all this stuff around Google's recent announcement on its plan to stop supporting third-party cookies in Chrome, starting in January 2022, not that far away. And it's been traditionally used by advertisers to execute targeted marketing campaigns, and been a really, really big piece of that. So this change is going to have a massive impact on digital advertising, especially for CPG brands. These kinds of changes in platforms and regulations are really driven by the rise of consumer awareness and privacy concerns. And so it's bringing to light, this need for CPG brands to move back into the driver's seat and create those direct relationships with their consumer. Consumers are smarter than ever right now. They know when they're being kind of tracked online, and they want it to be a mutual relationship built on trust, and they want to opt in to hear from you rather than feeling as though they're being followed. And so for any brands that are, have considered establishing a direct to consumer channel in the past and decided against it, now is really that time to reconsider. That's why we believe so strongly in sampling, because you build that bond of reciprocity. You give the consumer that free product, and they feel a sort of tie to your brand, an affiliation, if you will, that they really, you went that extra step for them, and you really cared about them. And they're going to remember that the next time they're either shopping around online or they're in store. So talking about, CPG brands, again, once the value of first-party consumer data, much more than just in marketing. This consumer information is obviously crucial for things like new product development, which is going to be really important right now, because pretty much all of the insights we had prior to the pandemic are null and void. And collecting that information that's fresh and new and current is going to be vital right now to know exactly how your consumers are feeling. Pricing strategies, product assortment, retail partner negotiations, demand planning, and many other areas all are impacted by this, first-party consumer data that's so important and such a big driver. And so digital product sampling is a great strategy to gain access to first-party data. Unlike most user targeting systems, which are deterministic, Sampler's data set is 100% first-party declarative and self-reported. So you're able to build a direct path to get to know your consumers beyond just transactional data, and better keep up with their changing needs and behavior. So taking a look at the insights you collect during a program, being able to discover things like why your consumers choose your brand over others, or which of your products they like, why, or which they enjoy best, can really help you to detect important patterns and make every sampling dollar count. You can start to uncover answers to important questions like who your consumers even are, what age, what demographic, lifestyle, dietary preferences, and once again, super importantly, shopping habits, why they choose your brand over others, what retail stores they shop at most often. Having that information is vital, in building the right retailer partnerships. There may be places that your target consumers are shopping that you hadn't even thought of yet that might be a great place to get on the shelves at. How likely are they to recommend your product? What is their purchase intent? All of these things can be put back into your sales and marketing efforts, and even help redefine your targeted audience. If growing retail distribution is important to you, for example, you can look at retailer specific data. So again, where consumers shop most often, and use that information to support conversations with retailers to further prove the demand for your product. So it works on both sides of the business. Number 3, so a recent Google study showed that the largest CPGs have databases of CRM and site data that are on average 1/10 the size of the databases of their retail peers. This disparity means that a lot of brands, there is an opportunity to capture and action consented consumer data, but it remains untapped. And so consider this. offering a super high value incentive like a product sample typically drives about a 5 to 10 times increase in conversion to CRM. Once again, that's that touching on that reciprocity. Not only helps you target more specific demographics in the future, but it really also helps you plan more effective remarketing strategies. So by understanding more about your consumers' demographics, psychographics, behavior, and lifestyle, you can really personalize the communication and improve your overall consumer experience as they move along through the funnel. And these valuable tidbits of information arm you with the insights you really need to personalize your content, build targeted email campaigns, and effectively guide consumers through every step of the shopper journey. And that segmentation, that personalization, isn't a nice to have anymore. Consumers expect it, and they need it. That's what's going to get them through to conversion. They want that remarketing strategy that can really, that makes them feel like the brand really knows who they are, that really understands them, and is highly curated. So, let's look at what this kind of looks like back on the user experience for Sampler. This is what things can look like after a sampling program, which is just as important as the sampling program itself. Follow-up coupon incentives for the first purchase, whether to drive them in store or to your e-com platform. Follow-up survey to capture insights post-trial. Ratings and reviews, which are so important to have. An option to syndicate them on e-commerce channels, or to e-commerce channels rather, and pixel users to retarget on social. Again, all of these things go so far past just the sampling experience itself, and really build that bridge for a long-lasting, strong relationship with your consumers or potential consumers. Number 4, so collecting ratings and reviews to drive sales. So all of us know ratings and reviews can be super, super powerful drivers in consumer spending. And when shopping for any type of item, consumers, I myself, often turn to online reviews to help them make their buying decision. For many brands, it can take a significant amount of time, effort, and budget to generate a really sufficient amount of reviews. And one of the primary uses for digital product sampling is the ability to ask your consumers for valuable feedback. What did they think of the product? Would they recommend it? How does it compare to other brands they've tried? Is there anything in particular they would change about it? All of these questions are so valuable to be answered right from the mouth of your consumers. And all useful information that you can bring back to your product development. Once again, your marketing and sales efforts. With Sampler, you can easily syndicate all of the ratings and reviews you collect during your program to your e-commerce website, helping you build trust and credibility at the point of purchase. So once again, your sampling dollars are not only working to engage consumers in a memorable way, but also sustaining a steady flow of consumer feedback. So you can start to see just how much of the marketing mix can be combined when you go digital. And you can really build that journey from start to finish for your consumer that is highly personalized and highly collaborative. It's a two-way street. They feel they can speak to you. And something we often say is, yes, direct to consumer is important. Consumers want direct to brand. They want to know that they can give you the feedback, that it's not falling on deaf ears, and that there is someone who will listen. And that's how you really build that memorable experience and that long-lasting relationship with consumers. And another note here is we know that 1 in 4 consumers who get a free sample leave a review of the product. This is through sampler data that we have. And by adding a sampling CTA to your current marketing channels, like your digital ads or influencer marketing campaigns, you can populate ratings and reviews quickly for both new and established products. So there's so many valuable insights, trends, and patterns that can really help you with product development. And again, personalization, as we discussed. So something, really cool that we actually just have launched and introduced as our latest tool is actually letting you derive insights from thousands of reviews very quickly and determine whether the sentiment of your consumer feedback is predominantly positive, neutral, or negative. For example, if you're a skincare company and you recently launched a hydrating face cream, how many of your consumers actually considered it a hydrating product? By using your search bar, you can sort through all of your reviews and quickly get a report of every review mentioning the word hydrated, for example. And the sentiment column right next to it tells you whether the review is positive, neutral, or negative, all of which are equally as important. Obviously, you want to get positive reviews, of course, or positive sentiment. But imagine there's something negative that they're associating, a keyword that they're associating with your product that you didn't even think about, that would be really important to know of and avoid in your product descriptions, in just your website copy as a whole, in your next marketing campaign. Super, super important insights that you can gain from this. If you targeted consumers with dry skin, did they react positively to the hydrating product, or did the majority feel it had the opposite effect? And if so, why? Those are all key pieces of information that would take hours of time to comb through manually. And so, your program can become a consumer feedback goldmine for product improvement recommendations. You've built this direct line of communication with consumers who are actively engaging with your product. You can better understand the why behind the consumer feedback. Consumer feedback is great, but if you can't dig into the why, it's not actionable. And so, with these insights, you can iterate quicker. You can make your products better with each iteration. This is a great way to get early market feedback for innovation. Great way to make sure your products are tested with real consumers before launching at scale. And something that, this can do as opposed to getting in-person feedback and with any of your experiential marketing activations is it's recorded. All of it's in one place, easy to digest, easy to sift through. If you're getting ad hoc feedback directly from someone who's walked up to your in-store sampling booth and tried your product, either that brand ambassador isn't going to translate that information back to you. Either way, it's going to get lost in the shuffle, and you will have no idea who said it. You won't be able to tie that directly to a specific consumer. And so when a product also has multiple flavors or variations, it can really help to compare performance across different SKUs, allow you to optimize your marketing spend and bet against the products that consumers actually really, really love, and improve the products your consumers aren't so sure about. And so lastly, digital product sampling does really help boost the effectiveness of your current ad spend. So once again, I'm sure this has been a massive channel for all of us here over the last year and a half, because ultimately half of our channels in our mix were nixed. So it was one that a lot of us doubled down on. And so, you obviously want to make sure that the dollars you're spending are giving you a return. You're getting the most out of them, and getting something out of them, rather than what it can feel like sometimes to us marketers is it just goes out into the ether and you don't really see the return on that. And so offering that free sample incentive as a call to action on your website or your ads can drive up to 7 times higher conversion to CRM registration as per our data, and in comparison to a digital ad or CTA with no incentive. So by reinvesting your media spend in a digital sampling program, for example, you can achieve the same or better acquisition metrics, all while having your target consumer actually experience the product. So let's look at how that actually happens, which I think it would be good to, just quickly walk you through that. So here's an example of an ad where, the Mio, for example, has a try now button underneath, takes you to this Mio branded experience. It's beautiful and looks like it matches the brand and everything. They're able to click on the CTA at the bottom with the connect with sampler, answer any questions about themselves. And based off of the targetability that Mio determined prior to the sampling program, those who fit their target segment will be matched with that sample. And those consumers that do get that sample fill out their shipping address and get it shipped to their front door, which is super easy and low lift for the consumer. And they get a free product right to their doorstep. What's better than that? So that's all I have today. I'd love to answer any questions if anyone has any.
We do. We have some questions coming in for you already. As a reminder, you can put your questions into the Q&A panel, and we'll start going through this now. So let's see. Our first question is from Charlotte. She says, how does digital sampling help you stay in tune with consumers?
Great question, Charlotte. Thank you for asking that. So a really big part of what digital product sampling is continuing the conversation with consumers. Actually, the reason why Sampler was started was the fact that if you're in store and you walk up and try a sample and walk away, there's no way to have a relationship with that brand or that consumer. It ends right there with the sample, and you never know anything else after that. And so on that thought that finding was really where Sampler was started, was building that relationship for the brand to continue the conversation with consumers. So anyone who samples your product, you get their email data. They can opt in to hear from your brand after they've tried your sample, and you get that list at the end of your sampling program with Sampler. And you can put that in your CRM platform for any future marketing campaigns, any email drips that you may have. And what's great is you get all the information about them, about what they answered. And so you can start to personalize and really segment the different types of campaigns that you're doing, which is obviously huge. And continue to give them more incentives if you so choose. Drive them into store, as I said. So the great thing about Sampler is it's really just the beginning of the relationship. The sample itself is really just a means to spark that relationship with that consumer for the long term.
Excellent. Another question here from Cynthia. She says, how do strategies for digital sampling and creator marketing vary for smaller and emerging brands? And what advice do you have on that?
Good question. I think it depends on what your objective is. So a lot of the emerging brands that we work with really want, awareness. And so what's great is we have a very large audience of millions, and a very, very engaged audience that we can get your product in front of that you may never have gotten in front of before. They've signed up specifically to try samples that match their lifestyle. And so they're high intent. They've opted in themselves. So they're really excited. And most of them are chomping at the bit to give feedback and ratings and reviews. And so, I think it really, once again, depends. If you're a massive brand who maybe already has your own following, you may be looking to engage with your own audience. But with smaller brands, you are able to get in front of brand new audience or brand new consumers through our audience. And that's one of the big reasons why some of the smaller emerging brands work with us, because we are almost that blend of an influencer marketing program and a sampling program all in one.
Yeah, excellent. We have some technical questions here. Is the sample box with multiple brands in it or just your brand?
Great question. We have both models. So if you prefer to be in your own box, you can do that as a fully branded program. We also have a multi-branded box where it's a little more cost effective because you share on shipping costs with the other brands. We do still promise category exclusivity. So you'll never be beside any of your competitors, but you are able to share on that efficiency of cost.
Another technical question, since we're getting technical, how would this work with a frozen product?
We do actually do free product coupons. So we can drive them in store, which tends to be the common one. And once again, our audience is really, really engaged. So that tends to be a successful program that a lot of frozen and beverage companies run with us.
Excellent. Okay, Casey is asking, what are your thoughts on in-store product sampling and a digital campaign running concurrently?
Totally. That's actually that's what we suggest most of the time, because they do have different benefits. If you're looking to just do one right now, if you have budget constraints because of all the market trends we discussed, I'm biased, but digital sampling covers way more of your marketing mix. You get way more bang for your buck and a whole bunch more activations than you would with an in-store. In-store is strictly to that one store. Digital sampling is to the whole globe. And once again, it's mixing influencer marketing, it's mixing ad spend, it's mixing the targetability of programmatic advertising all in one. That being said, if you have the budget to do both, that's an excellent strategy. That way you're getting to reach people in store when they're making those snap buy decisions. But at the same time, they can go home and see you online and say, oh yeah, that's the brand I saw in store. Oh, maybe they have more things that I would like. And you get to capture that CRM data. So if you can do a blended, that's a great approach in the way that you would with other advertising, the way we talk about, traditional advertising versus digital advertising. The ultimate goal or utopia is really to have that blended strategy of both.
Okay. All right, another question here. Could a digital sampling program insights then be integrated into a remarketing campaign, and how does that work?
Yes, absolutely. So every brand gets a dashboard with real-time analytics and insights about how their sampling program is doing. Again, everything from the average age of people claiming your product to again where they shop, all that information. If you had specifically wanted to add a question in about skin type, you'll get that information back as well, on top of obviously the really, really valuable email addresses of those who have opted in to get your, or to stay in touch with you. You'll be able to upload that into your marketing automation platform, and then use all of those insights to make really, really, really personalized follow-up remarketing campaigns, on top of all of the sentiment analysis and sort of, analyzing the positive, negative, neutral keywords associated with your product. That is gold for a marketer to know. Maybe there's a word that they use for your product or your category that you had no idea that they used. Right there, that's already fueling your SEO strategy, that you need to rank for words that you didn't know you need to rank for, adding those words into your product descriptions on your website, adding it into your social post copy. All of that gets fueled by everything you can learn from a digital sampling program.
Excellent. All right. I want to remind people, send your questions. I am trying to look at the chat box. I know questions are coming in there. If you can put them in the Q&A panel, it just makes sure that as these chats are coming through, I don't miss anything. So we have a lot of questions coming in for you, Kelly. So let's keep to it. What is a typical quantity required for sampling?
Oh, great question. There isn't a typical quantity. It can really range. Again, we work with every brand of every size. You can start with as few as 1,000, go as many as 100,000 if you wanted to. A sweet spot is usually between 5,000 and 10,000 to start with if it's your first program and you're a little budget conscious. That way you're getting enough data collection and also, CRM data collection that it's worth your while. But that being said, you can still really have a ton of success and a ton of return on squeezing as much out of your budget with as few as 1,000 samples.
All right. Can you provide examples on what type of insights brands collect during a program?
Great question. Yeah, so I touched on it a little bit before, but everything from that demographic data. So really, really, really understanding, geolocation. Let's say you run a US specific program. Is it people in New York who are more likely to claim your product versus, Florida? Or is it, where is your product resonating most? Is it, again, the age, different types of skin, like skin concerns, anything around, any preferences, shopping preferences. We can ask them what stores are their favorite stores to go to. Do they prefer big box stores or smaller stores? All that kind of information is stuff that the brand can actually access during their digital sampling program, on top of all of the insights around their specific program of how many samples have moved, how quickly they've moved, how many are left, how many, ratings and reviews, on top of all of the keyword analysis and sentiment analysis that I referenced earlier. So there's tons and tons of great stuff that can fuel an entire annual marketing strategy.
It's amazing. Another question here. Do ads with digital sampling offers perform better? And do you have any numbers to help illustrate that?
Do ads? Yes, so definitely ads with digital sampling offers perform better. I put them in the slides earlier, but I can reference them. We'll post it on social about how much. Actually, I can go back and find that slide here if I'm still sharing. Yeah, five times higher ad recall than without sampling CTAs, as well as 7 times more likely for a consumer to complete an extended profile with the sampling CTA.
Excellent. Question here. I'm in shopper marketing. Would I be able to target consumers who shop at a specific store, which I think you kind of touched on, so maybe you can elaborate on that.
Absolutely. We work with brands all the time on that. So some may be specific to a store like Kroger or Trader Joe's. They know that their product is stocked there most. 100%, that's something we can do. We can also do geolocation. So if you're focused on a program in a specific state and retailer, we can do that as well.
All right. How do you select the influencers and the platforms they share product information on?
So yeah, we actually don't work with influencers themselves. It's our own following. It's our own database. These are consumers who have found us and are very engaged with us. We do have partners within the media, so network partners, which is one arm of our business. So you think of a Men's Journal or an In Touch Weekly. They are our partners and have their own branded box, like an In Touch VIP box style. And those partnerships just allow us to reach greater audiences, have really big reach. Our reach is about 59 million right now. And so, that in that arm that's the closest thing I would say we have to influencer right now. But in general, we just have a big following for people who love Sampler.
Awesome. Okay, Cindy says, I'm in digital marketing. Could you give an example of how Sampler has helped a brand with marketing metrics?
Ooh, good question. I'll have to pull up. I could send Cindy, great question. I want to send you some specific numbers. So let me get in touch with you after the webinar. But there are definitely, when speaking with marketing metrics, I can give you a looser example right now. We are often helping brands, again, grow their CRM list. That's a really, really, really big one. Boost the number of ratings or the average rating they have on syndicated e-commerce sites. We also, are able to get that, purchase intent data. We're able to, again, increase the advertising effectiveness with a boosted sampling CTA, all those things. We have actually helped brands who have their own influencer marketing campaigns boost the efficiency of their influencer marketing campaigns with the influencer saying, click below to try a sample. So there's different ways that really what it is adding that sampling experience for the user at the end of the day is just going to supercharge any of your current marketing channels whatsoever. Once again, I want to get you more concrete numbers, so I'll be sure to send some case studies over to you after this.
Excellent. Keep those questions coming. We have so many. Can you target specific geographies, and also can you target people who have identified preferences such as being vegan?
Yes, that's actually a very popular one for us. Dietary preferences is one of the most popular targets that we work with brands on, and geolocation 100%. We can target any location that you're looking for across North America. And so it can be city specific, it can be state specific, whatever you're looking for. But yes, 100% we can do that.
Excellent. Another question here. We are a small business and we're looking to drive local consumers into our store. Would Sampler help with a very local campaign, or is it largely a nationwide program?
It can be local, yeah. So if you put in targetability and parameters around wanting a local specific geolocator, once again, 100% Sampler can work with that. That's what's so great about, the malleability of digital sampling is it really can be tailored to whatever your needs are.
And we have someone looking for a little bit more information on Sampler's audience.
Yes, so as I mentioned, we have a reach of about 59 million, and they're across, again, all of North America. We have a pretty equal representation in both countries. A lot of them have a higher education. A lot of them are parents. Most of them are a primary shopper in their household. I think there's a very large amount of them are pet owners. Once again, I'm happy to send kind of a write-up of the exact breakdown of our audience if you're looking for specific metrics. But that's what's great about our audience, is that we really can tell you as granularly as what percentage of them shop at what store, and how many of them have dogs, and where they live. All that kind of stuff is super fun for us to collect and beneficial to our end audience user who's looking for a really tailored, personalized experience.
All right, question here. Does it cost more to keep an actual customer or to gain a new one? And can we digitally sample every product?
So yeah, you can do as many products as you'd like. They would be different campaigns, if you will, but we have that all the time. Brands do multiple products at once, different SKUs. Often they'll test different flavors, especially with new product launches. But in general, yes, 100% you can test different ones. I think it depends on your strategy. That's a good question. The great thing about Sampler is that, if you are looking at your cost per acquisition and it is more expensive to acquire a new user or a new consumer rather than re-engage old ones, you can use your sampling program for both. We actually have a lot of brands who use us as kind of a brand advocacy sampling program for people that they know that are high value, that have purchased them before, but maybe dropped off, or that are really strong brand advocates already, but they want to keep fueling that relationship. They'll do a brand advocacy sampling program. and really make sure that those people get a free sample, they feel taken care of. Once again, there's that direct to brand relationship. They can give product feedback and really feel special. So it really depends on what you're looking for. I can't speak to your specific cost per acquisition versus, old versus new. But once running a simple calculation of CAC LTV could probably give you that answer.
All right. And are the sample boxes shipped in customizable sizes, or is it a standard box for all samples?
So if you are part of the multi-branded box, it's standard. If you run a fully branded program, you can get your logo put on the box and an insert, if you so choose, that says more about your product.
All right, so any more questions, keep them coming. I have a question, I was on your website, and for anybody who wants more information, there's a lot of testimonials on there, brand testimonials, so much information on there to help familiarize you more with Sampler. But one of the, we have a lot of retailers also in our audience at Whole Foods Magazine, and one of the brand testimonials on your website talks about how Sampler helped the brand streamline their demo process. And she said it helped them align with one marketing program so that they could support all of their nationwide retail partners. So I thought it would be nice to just touch on more about how retailers are supported when a brand is going through Sampler.
What do you mean by how retailers are supported?
Well, she said that using Sampler has helped them better support their retail partners.
Oh, yes. Okay. So there's a lot of the data that you collect in a Sampler program is directly related and usable with your retail partners to show traction, to show target audience, to show all of those different things. Once again, referencing, if you have multiple SKUs, having this information about which SKUs are high performing can help you get on the shelves or on a priority spot on shelves. And all of this data is transparent, right? You can share that directly with retailers, and it builds a better connection, a better relationship, rather than just, trying to say, yes, people love our product. You've got proof in the pudding, and you can show that to the retailer themselves. Therefore, they feel a lot more confident putting you on their shelves.
Excellent. All right, any more questions? I know we have a few more minutes if people have more questions, or is there any other point that you really want to drive home, Kelly, before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think the big thing is it's a crazy time for marketers. It's every dollar counts. The more you can make your spend do 5 things at once rather than just one, the better you're going to set yourself up for a more successful year. And you can adapt whatever budget you're working with to squeeze the most out of it, rather than just looking at all separate channels as different investments. Things like digital sampling allow you to take 5 channels and squeeze them into one budget, so that you are getting more bang for your buck. You are being a lot more efficient with your spend. And once again, we're a very malleable solution. Whatever your needs are, we have a big team of experts who actually are there to curate a very specific sampling program just for you. So happy to hear from anyone who's looking to launch a sampling program.
Why don't you put your next slide up? I know it has some of your contact information, tell people where you can follow, or you can get more information. We've covered a lot of ground today. I think it's clear that this is a strong benefit. And any additional questions, I know that Kelly and the team at Sampler will be happy to assist. You can reach out to them. The website is there in the chat, so you can follow that along. Click right through there today. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thanks to Kelly for all this valuable information. Thank you to Sampler for putting this on and sharing this. And everybody have an excellent day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.